All right, so let's start out by talking a little bit about the mobile market. Back in 2007, the mobile market really, these smartphones were really consisted of Nokias and RIMS phones, and they were pretty good for the time, but they started to be replaced by Apple's iPhone. And then in 2008, we have Android, and so there's this constant change as we have the iPad, and now we have Amazon with their tablets, and even more devices coming. We're seeing so much change coming on in terms of these mobile devices and getting things done in this mobile space. And users are adopting these. From a platform point of view, who's kind of winning this? It's a question that I often get asked. Well, Apple's iPhone is definitely doing really well. Has a lot of market share, and lately, with the latest announcement of their device, a lot of press. Android is doing very well, though something important to notice is that Samsung seems to be about the only device manufacturer that's making money selling devices. So that's an important thing to keep in mind for the future. Windows Mobile, for whatever reason, they have not sold as many devices. I've played with their devices. They're it's a great platform, but still, for whatever reason, users have not adopted it like I would have expected them to. Tablets, iPad really is dominating. Amazon came on strong last year with their Kindle Fire. The Google Nexus 7 tablet, I think that's going to do well this Christmas season. I have one. It's a fantastic little tablet. Windows 8 tablets, I don't know, maybe. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So, but what in this ecosystem of all these new devices and change and stuff, what do people really want? And what they want is they want some support for this new device. They go out and they get this new iPhone and they or their new Android smartphone or whatever, and they just want it to work. They want it to work easily and to be easy to use and easy to set up. Not everybody is highly technical and can fiddle with their devices forever. They just want things to work, and they want Groupwise features. They want it to work in a way that leverages the email system that they're used to using. So, but what has been oftentimes the IT department's response? A lot of times they just say, hey, not our problem. We don't support those little smartphones. They just say no. Users don't react well to that. But other companies, they've really embraced a bring your own device to work policy and have enabled their users to get access to corporate data, whether that's mail or other solutions, and to get access to that data so that they can be productive all the time. And so, and one of the ways in which they enable us to be more productive is thinking about tablets and how, and the ways that tablets can be effective for collaboration in ways that, say, laptops cannot be used. There's some really inventive things that some people are doing. So what about Groupwise? Well, unfortunately, the smartphones out there just don't come with support for Groupwise out of the box. They typically will support active sync connections, but not necessarily Groupwise natively. And so, so oftentimes a solution that can be used is an active sync-based solution to basically allow Groupwise to pretend to be exchanged to these smartphones. The challenge there is oftentimes this can be an expensive solution. It requires new configuration setup. Requires that IT department that is less cooperative sometimes for smartphones to be cooperative and to do something. And more importantly, I think you're limited to the set of things that Exchange can do. And we use Groupwise because we like it, and it does things over and above Exchange. And so users want that. Well, what about Groupwise Web Access? We do have some additional mobile-specific features that are available now that are available in the latest versions of Groupwise. That's good, but it's not quite what people want. I think a great example is looking at our friend Facebook. Their Facebook app, when it was, they recently rewrote it to go from an HTML configuration to a native app. And prior to that, the average reviews, they had like a 2-star review average for that HTML-based app. Users it wasn't working for them, right? And they rewrote it to be native, and now all of a sudden it's like a 4-star app. It's doing much better. I think that's what users really want. Is they want things to work well. So how do we solve that? Ghost Pattern Software, what we have done is we've released a series of applications to help users get access to Groupwise. They're easy to deploy, and they get you at that data, and they work well. So let's talk through, kind of show you how to do it. It's fairly easy. You get your iPhone and or your Android device. We'll walk through for iPhone, but it's the same kind of idea for Android. You just go to the App Store app and you search for the word Groupwise, and up come these apps from Ghost Pattern Software. You buy the app just like you're buying Angry Birds. It's fairly straightforward. You tap, you enter your iTunes password, and you're done. The app downloads. You launch it for the first time, and the app's going to prompt you for a couple of things. It's going to ask for the URL to your Groupwise Web Access server. You want to enter that full URL with HTTPS and all the way through the /GW WebAC. But the good news is that the IT department doesn't need to do anything in order for this app to work. It's just going to work directly with Groupwise Web Access. No server changes or configuration required. And so within just a couple of minutes, you've got access to your mailbox. And so users are happy, and there's your email. So let me go through it a little bit more in detail. So the mailbox. So with the mailbox, we've got access to. We've got a native iPhone interface. It's going to the app's going to automatically log in when you launch it. It's going to support really a variety of versions of Groupwise, and there's your mailbox. So you tap on one of those rows for an email, and there's your email from your mailbox. This is going to work the same if that's an email, an appointment, a task, a note. It's all just going to show up there. It's going to look just like one of those items. iPad support. The app has a custom interface for iPad support. With a mail list on the left and the message on the right, just like your users would expect. So a little talk about the setup. You want to make sure, of course, you've got that URL correctly. With the password, of course, the app is going to store that password securely. For those that are curious, it stores it in the device's key store, which is really secure. Apple goes to great lengths to make sure that things are secure on their device. So Though I do recommend, set a passcode for your device. If you're at the IT department, getting an MDM system that enforces your users setting passcodes, that's a good idea. So let's look at this mailbox. We've got, see the blue dot there. That's going to show you your, the fact that that item is unread. It's the same UI affordance that that Apple uses. We've got the blue arrow and the orange arrow. Those same as Groupwise Web Access to show that those items have been replied to or been forwarded. Got an attachment icon. It's pretty straightforward. Little tip and trick. A lot of times people ask, hey, how do I delete an item without opening it? Well, on the iPhone, there's a method that they use a lot. Is this, they call it swipe to delete. And so what you do in this case is you swipe your finger from left to right over that date area, and a little delete button will appear, and you tap on delete, and that item will be deleted directly without having to open it first. It's really good for spam if the occasional spam makes it through the spam filters. But, of course, we don't just want to see our mailbox. We want to see other folders, too. And so, you tap on that folders button in the upper left-hand corner, brings up a list of your folders, and you can switch folders. With this solution, not only can I get all the way, I can switch folders, but I'm going to be able to view older items. So as I'm looking through this mail list, if I have lots of items, I'll scroll to the bottom, and there will be a little button that says, hey, let's load some more mail items, and you can go all the way back through every single item in that whole folder. So there's no limitation in terms of the number of items that you can access in a folder. Like I was saying before, when you read an email, you can read emails, appointments, tasks, notes. From here, you can mark items as unread or delete them. But of course, you don't just want to read items; you want to reply to them. So you tap on that little arrow button on the toolbar, and it pops up with a list of actions that you can do to the item. Whether it's reply, reply all, forward, move, properties. Properties is a good example of something that Groupwise does well with that status tracking. People want to be able to see, hey, I'm sitting in this meeting. Is John going to show up? Did he accept the appointment? And I can look, quickly pull up that item and see, oh yeah, he did accept that appointment, so he should be coming. Attachments. This is another strength of this app's solution, is that we have a couple different ways that you can access attachments. So first of all, you can use this what we call the Groupwise View link, and that opens up the Groupwise Document Viewer. The Groupwise Document Viewer is really good for in that it can convert a variety of items of document types to HTML, and it renders it on the server, and so it just downloads really a pretty small file for you to view. That's good, especially for really big attachments that you just don't want to download all the way over maybe a slow network connection to your device. But sometimes you want to download the item locally, and so we have this other link, call it the iOS view there, and that will allow you to download the item locally to the device and then open the attachment with an application that you have installed on the device that can view or perhaps edit the document. So when you do that, it will use whatever kinds of apps you have installed. So if you go and get, say, Adobe's PDF reader and have that installed, then the PDF reader will come up as an option to open the attachment if you're viewing a PDF document. Now, one question that comes in from the Q&A was somebody asked, "Hey, we're talking about the iPhone. Is this going to work on the iPad as well?" you know what, the iPad works just the same. This is a universal application, meaning that you download it and buy the app, and it's the exact same app that you install on the iPhone and on the iPad. So, and in fact, you know, if you download it and buy it once, you can install it on, you know, if you have an iPhone and an iPad, you'll be able to just install it on both of them because you're using the same iTunes ID. Attachments. Here's an example of what Apple's document viewer looks like viewing a .docx file. Something to consider though with Apple's document converter, it works really well for the types that it supports. For some of the more edge case document types, it doesn't work quite as well. And so, you know, in that case, the Groupwise document converter works really well. So it will give you that kind of flexibility. You know, composing an email, you know, reading your email is nice, but a lot of times you need to reply. So whether that's composing a brand new email or replying or forwarding, the app definitely has that covered. You can compose an email and send that off to your coworkers. But you know, when you're doing that, you know, oftentimes it's easiest to just search. You know, we don't all know our coworkers' email addresses off the top of our head. So what we do is we want to use those Groupwise address books. And so what you do is you tap on the to field or the CC or BCC field, and you just start typing. You pause for a second, and the app will go out and start searching your address books until it finds a user whose name matches what you're searching for. The app will search through each of these address books and then give you a search result that matches. So here's a screenshot that shows how what a match looks like. Found a match in frequent contacts. Or then you can tap on, you know, if you don't like those results, you can say, hey, I think the person I want is in a different address book, and you say search more address books, and it'll go on and search additional address books. Sometimes people have frequent contacts address books that are big, and so it works best for them to have frequent contacts to be searched last. There is a setting that you can adjust the search order for that to move frequent contacts to be searched last. There's a setting in the iOS settings app. We have a number of settings like that just make it easier to configure the app so that it works best for you. So I think because of time, we're going to skip demo. Notifications. So this is a new feature for the iOS app. Since the last time we had one of these webinars, we do have a notification service available for GWMail on the iOS platform. So for iPhone and iPad, this is going to do a push notification to your device, which is, you know, one of the things that, you know, people really want is that ability to get notified when something when you get that new email. So let me talk a little bit about how this works. So normally when the app works, it talks directly to the Groupwise Web Access Server. And that's great. The problem is that if you exit the app no longer, Apple doesn't let me just let the app run in the background and check every few minutes for new email. You know, Apple's very conscious about battery life and that sort of thing. So there's no way that I can just do that background processing thing. So what I had to do was set up this notification system where I have a server set up that will periodically connect to your account and see whether or not there's new email to be had. If there is a new email, then it sends a push notification to Apple's push notification server, which then relays that notification to the device. The notification is going to look like, you know, it's going to be a sound, an audible sound that happens, and then there is a and then the badge number changes as well. So some of you folks, IT folks may say, hey, well, I'm not sure that I want a third party's server pulling my users' accounts. Well, you know, I understand that, and we do have the ability to turn that off if IT departments would prefer that. Also, if you want to buy this service for all your users, we can arrange for that as well. Because I do have to host a server for this, there is a nominal monthly cost for the service. It's not very much at all, $1 a month. Anyway, so let's move on to GW Mail for Android. This I'm going to go through kind of fast, since a lot of the functionality between the iOS app and the Android app are the same. You know, we're doing the same kinds of features. The difference, though, is this is a completely different app. It is, in both iOS and Android, they're native apps, 100% native code. We're not doing any HTML funny business. And so being a native app, we have, works a little bit better. App feels better to the users. But anyway, we recently updated the interface here for Android to make it a little bit more in line with the latest versions of Android. So you're able to get this this newer interface, and we've done that across all of our Android apps, both the Mail app, the Calendar app, and so I think it's a significant improvement. But just like the iOS app, you're going to see that mail list. You're going to be able to see you're going to be able to read an item, whether that's an appointment, a task, or a note. You're going to be able to view that no problem. So Android features, like the iOS app, you're going to be able to delete, move items, mark items to be read later, view properties. You're going to create new emails. You're going to be able to search your address books when you're composing an email. You're going to be able to view attachments both through Groupwise Web Access, through that document converter on the server, and also be able to download the app locally, or download the attachment locally, sorry, and open it with a local app. So let's talk about Calendar. Here's something that's somewhat new for us. The Calendar app, just like the Mail app, it behaves similarly in terms of supporting the same versions of Groupwise, including all the way through Groupwise 2012. But the difference is the Calendar app has a different model for looking at your items. We're going to look at things by date instead of by folder. And so one of the features that users ask for a lot is this month view. And so we now have this month view. I think it works really well. Everybody's pretty happy with it. That also transitions over to the iPad. So on the iPad, this is what the month view looks like. We do have, if you don't want to look things, at a full month, we do have a day view and a week view. And of course, we've got all the core features of viewing being able to reply to an item and, forward and delete items. Well, one of the key differences, though, is when we're talking about appointments, is that you have the ability to do other things to an appointment, namely accept an appointment or decline, or let's say complete a task. You also oftentimes want to resend an appointment. That's kind of Groupwise's way of editing an appointment. So if you have rights to edit an item, you do have the ability to, a resend option will show up in this option menu so that you can resend the appointment. On the iPhone, we have the ability to compose a variety of items, whether that's appointments. You can create new post-it notes. Pretty much most of the item types that Groupwise Web Access supports. On the Android, just as note, Android only supports creating new appointments. Starting in Groupwise 8, at least as far as Groupwise Web Access was concerned, we had this notion of multiple calendars. This includes shared calendars. With the calendar app, we do have the ability to turn calendars on and off. Usually people I don't think need to turn things on and off on a regular basis, but what does sometimes happen is that all their calendars will get turned off, and then they're like, hey, I can't see anything on my calendar. Well, you tap on that calendar button and you can turn all your calendars back on, and then all of your appointments reappear. All right, so let's talk GW Calendar for Android. Similar, again, with an updated interface, we're going to have this action bar along the top, a little bit updated user interface, but you know, definitely it's an Android look and feel for this. Works pretty well. We have a day, a week, and a month view, so you can switch, you know, in terms of how many items you want to see at a time. You know, like the iPhone, you can jump to a particular day. You've got a button that lets you jump just to today, that sort of thing. Core features are going to look, you know, fairly similar to iOS, and then you can compose appointments. You can, you know, view items properties, that sort of thing. So before we get into the next app, let's answer a couple of questions that have come in through the Q&A. First one that came in was relayed to me. Somebody was asking about the push notification service distinguishing between regular and priority email and alert for just priority email. That's not a feature that we support right now. Right now, basically what the app does is it polls the server every 15 minutes. And if it sees that you have new email, regardless of who it comes from or whatever, it will do that notification and change the badge. Pam asked, what about support for Windows Mobile OS? To be perfectly honest, there's not enough devices sold for Windows Mobile yet to make that something that we've chosen to do. So Windows Mobile is not supported yet, especially since Microsoft just went and reset everything with the with the Windows Mobile 7 to Windows Mobile 8 transition. That's a bit of a basically creates a compatibility problem. So will we address that in the future? Absolutely. I spend probably too much time looking at the market and trying to figure out which platforms are doing well, which platforms are users actually adopting. If there are enough people that will go out and buy Windows Mobile phones, absolutely, I will be porting my apps to Windows Mobile, but as of right now, no. What about notifications for Android? We do not have that yet, but that is actually the top of the list of the things that we're going to do next. So I do have a few things I need to do to support for iOS 6 and making sure that that is working perfectly well. We've got it working well now, but need to do a few more things. So push notifications we will get notifications available for Android before too long. Question, can push notification poll rate be adjusted by the customer to make it poll at a faster rate? Currently, that's not something that we support. To be perfectly honest, I'm a little bit worried that if I allow that I'll destroy some people's GroupWise Web Access server under, just too much load. But that's something that I've been thinking about maybe doing in a future update. So I'd be interested in feedback from IT people as what they think about if I increase that poll frequency. All right, so let's get to GW Contacts. So GW Contacts is one of our newer apps. Had a lot of people that said, hey, that's great that you can search and find people's email addresses for composing new emails, but sometimes I want to look up somebody's phone number or some other piece of information on that contact. Help me do that, and that's what this app does. So just like the Mail and the Calendar app, you're going to do a search. This isn't a browse your contacts thing because we don't really want to download 20,000 contacts as some people that have huge frequent contacts address books. But we're going to let you search through all your address books, and then what you do is when you select an item from that or contact from that search result, we're going to see information about that user, their title, their department, the list of different numbers that are available to them. And of course, when I tap on, say, their cell phone, I'm going to be able to find, it'll of course launch the phone app and allow you to contact or call that user. This was something I use all the time when I was on the road with GroupWise. Is I'm like, oh, okay, I need the cell phone number for this person that I'm traveling with. How do I look that up? And I needed to be able to do that, from my mobile device, and this app does that, along with email addresses. So if you tap on that email button, it's going to give you the option to launch that to create a new email with GW Mail, to create a new appointment with GW Calendar, or to, if you're just going to use this and not with our GW Mail app, that's fine. It can launch the iOS Mail app with that user's email address pre-filled in. So, and of course the address row there will launch the map and let you find that user's that address. So pretty straightforward. So let's talk just a couple of seconds about what kind of what's good about this solution. So first of all, you get access to GroupWise specific features. So so whether that's tasks or notes, you're going to be able to see those as real tasks and notes, and not some exchange converted version of something. You're going to be able to search all your address books without the requirement of syncing them somewhere. You're going to have access to status tracking. You're going to have access to the GroupWise Web Access document converter, as well as the ability to open that item on the local device. You're going to be able to view attached and forwarded emails as attached and forwarded emails. So if there's an attached email, you tap on it and it's going to open that as an email and not get munged going through ActiveSync. And of course, we have access to shared folders and shared address books. So works. I think it's a great solution. I have lots of users that are very happy with it. Groupwise support. We support all the way through the very latest version of GroupWise 2012. In fact, I just did and sent through an update for GroupWise 2012 SP1, even though it's not released yet. Everybody's deploying it, so we had to make some fixes to make sure that that works well. And we support all the way back to GroupWise 6.5. There are a few companies that are still using those older versions of GroupWise, and we do support those. Device support. Just recently bumped up the minimum supported iOS version to iOS 4, and of course that's going to work across all those Apple devices. We're probably going to bump that to iOS 3 is the minimum supported device here really soon. Mostly that's driven by Apple and kind of some technical issues. In order to support the very latest iOS and the very latest versions of their devices, I have to move and compile with their latest stuff, which unfortunately drops support for older devices that are using the older CPUs. With Android, in order to get the new UI, we had to support all the way through, and we had to bump up the minimum supported device to Android 2.1, which actually happens to be like 99% of all Android users. And it works great on phones and tablets, no problem. Connectivity. You do need constant access to Groupwise Web Access in order for these apps to work. So that is a disadvantage with this. You need that active connection and there's no caching. We do work with Novell Access Manager and iChain. So if you've chosen to put Novell Access Manager or iChain in front of your Groupwise Web Access server, we do support that. So how do you buy it? So you buy it on the iOS App Store. So you just go out there and buy it. For Android, we support 2 ways of buying it, through the Android market and through the Amazon App Store. Amazon App Store is newly available over in some European countries too. So sometimes, believe it or not, Android market, or I guess it's now called Google Play, sometimes it has problems. If you run into challenges with Google Play, you may want to just consider Amazon App Store. Amazon, they have that thing down. So just search for the word Groupwise and you'll be able to find the apps, no problem. Volume purchases. A lot of times people ask, hey, I want to buy a bunch of these apps for my users. How do I do that? Well, unfortunately, Apple doesn't let me sell you apps directly, but they do have a volume purchase program. They have a version for education and a version for business. It does require a little bit of setup with Apple, but it is doable, and a lot of people do take advantage of that. If you're just doing a few users, I recommend doing a gifting option. It's functionally similar in that it allows you to use your corporate purchasing card to go and buy apps, and then you get these little codes that you can plug into a user's device that will redeem the app. And that way you don't have to do reimbursements for small amounts of money. If you want the notification service, you can just purchase that directly from me. Android, however, is a little bit different. Just send me an email, daniel@ghostpattern.com, and we can set you up with a volume purchase. So again, to summarize, how is this better than some other solutions? It is simple to set up. There's no server changes required. It's relatively inexpensive. You're not going to end up spending $100 a user per year on this. It's a one-time purchase for that app. You don't end up with sync problems. So somebody asked, hey, well, what about our sent items? So if I send an item through the app, is it going to be tracked as such? Is it going to show up in my sent folder? And the answer is yes, because it's like you're dealing directly with Groupwise Web Access, and so it's going to show up in that sent folder like normally. You're not going to run into any problems that way. We do support older versions of Groupwise. You don't have to be patched to the very latest patch level. We support Groupwise specific features and like shared folders and all these address books. One question some people ask, so our apps, so somebody asked, hey, what's the cost for these apps? The Mail app is $10 a user, the Calendar app is $5 a user, the Contacts app is $5. So before I go and buy that, how do I know this is going to work with my server? I highly recommend that you go and download. We have this free app called GW Lite. It's available for both iOS and Android. It connects to your Groupwise Web Access server and finds a little bit of information about your account. If you install this app and it runs and it looks like this and it can tell information about your account, then the other apps are going to work. We use the exact same authentication mechanisms to work with the app. So I highly recommend you just checking that out to make sure that it's working for you. So a lot of times the reaction is, hey, well, that's great. Give me more features. Well, we constantly put out new updates, and we're working on other solutions as well around Groupwise. So, please send us an email if you have any questions or suggestions. Subscribe to our newsletter. That's where, if we're doing a major update, so maybe a couple times a year is all, we send out a little newsletter saying, hey, there's a new app, or hey, there's a major change here that's come. So subscribe to our newsletter. But anyway, I encourage you to contact us with any support questions that you have. We have a dedicated support email. You can actually access through that through the app. I just constantly get questions from your users. Works great. So please contact me with that. So let's do a little bit more Q&A. So Willem says that he thinks that Groupwise should be able to handle the bombardment of a higher frequency checking. I bet Willem has set his server up to be that. I'm not as confident about everybody's, but we'll see. Yes, Willem asks, can your contacts app copy contacts between address books? It does not currently give you the ability to move contacts between address books or copy them or to create new ones. It's definitely something that we need to add. Benji asks about bundling. Because of the nature of how you buy the apps through these app stores, we really don't have the ability to do bundling, unfortunately. So Willem says, hey, loves the apps. Thanks, Willem. Sent items, Linda asked. Yeah, we answered that earlier. Sent items are tracked. They aren't tracked as being distinctly from the iPhone or from Android, but they are going to be tracked just like a normal item that's sent. It's going to have that timestamp on it. Willem likes NAM support. Good. Let's see, we answered cost. You mentioned that it doesn't cache the email on the device, so if the user is disabled, they will not see any Groupwise info. That is correct. So if a user loses their device, and you're worried about, hey, this gives you access to somebody could find that device and access their email. Well, hopefully the user has a passcode set, but yes, there's nothing cached on the device. So you disable, just change the user's password, and that app has no information that can be accessed. Subsequent updates free. So to date, we have not charged for any updates. I can't even think of a way that I could do that. I haven't produced a new version of the app that requires a paid update. So yeah, there are people that purchased these apps back in 2009, and they're still getting updates, and I think are very happy that the app is doing quite a bit more than it did before. So yeah, constant updates and that are all free. The only exception to that is like the iOS notifications, where we had to install some infrastructure, so we're passing on a little bit of that charge. But other than that, yeah, updates are free. So spend just a couple minutes real quick with a question from Amy. Came through asking how the Groupwise, these ghost pattern apps compare to Groupwise mobility product. I think some of the keys are like I just summarized it. Fairly inexpensive, very easy to deploy, you know, you're not going to have, you know, similar to Notify Link as well, you're not going to have any, you know, hosting charges. You don't need to deploy anything on your server or make any configuration changes. So from the IT department's point of view, this is a, you know, a nice, simple solution. You're also not going to have any sync problems. You know, the app's pretty much just works. I also don't have too many problems with, you know, obscure Android devices. The app pretty much just works. So it's, in that sense, it's, you know, fairly inexpensive. It is a Groupwise specific solution. We don't have to filter all our data through the vocabulary of Exchange. Works fairly well. So I highly recommend just checking it out. I have a lot of people that even if they're going to they're getting ready to deploy Groupwise Mobility, and maybe they use that on an ongoing basis, they'll go and get these apps as kind of a backup for when the mobility server might crash or otherwise have some problems, so that they can access some of those additional features. So anyway, I think we've pretty much answered all the questions, and I think also my time is up. So if there are no more questions, I think we're done.